The manual in your glove box and the engine under your hood quietly stopped agreeing with each other somewhere around 80,000 miles, and nobody mailed you a letter about it. Same engine, same model year. 2 different answers, printed by the same company. Open a North American owner's manual for almost any modern Honda 4-cylinder, and you'll find 0W-20 specified in flat, confident language. No asterisk, no mileage cutoff, no paragraph that says, revisit this at 100,000. Now go look at the engineering literature that sits behind that manual. The tolerance tables, the allowable oil consumption figures, the wear limits a technician measures against during a teardown, and you'll find something that reads differently, not a contradiction, a silence. Because the manual is describing an engine at 0 miles, and you are not driving an engine at 0 miles. Here's the thing, that's not a scandal, and I want to say that clearly before we go one sentence further. Honda's engineers didn't get this wrong. In my assessment, they got it remarkably right, for the engine as it left the factory. What they didn't do, what basically no manufacturer does in a consumer-facing document, is publish a second recommendation for the same engine after a decade of clearance growth, ring wear, and heat cycling. That second recommendation doesn't exist on paper. It exists in the physics, and it exists in the working knowledge of people who've had 100 of these engines apart. So let's start where the story actually starts, not with the complaint. With the reason 0W-20 was a genuinely good engineering decision. I want to give you the strongest possible version of the case for the factory grade, because if you only ever hear the go thicker argument, you're being sold half a picture. Start with cold start flow. The most punishing seconds in your engine's entire life happen in the first 10 to 15 seconds after a cold start, before oil pressure has fully established at the top of the cylinder head. That's when the camshafts, the rocker arms, the valve train, the parts sitting highest and farthest from the pump, are running on whatever residual film survived overnight. A 0W oil has a low temperature pumping and cranking viscosity defined under SAE J300, and the practical result is that it reaches those upper surfaces faster than a 5W would at the same temperature. Faster oil arrival at the parts that are starving. That is not a marketing claim, that's measurable, and it's one of the reasons modern engines outlive the ones your grandfather rebuilt at 90,000. Then there's pumping loss. Every drop of oil your engine circulates has to be pushed through galleries, past bearings, through the variable valve timing circuits and up to the head, and pushing it takes energy the crankshaft has to produce. Thinner oil takes measurably less energy to move. Less pumping loss means more of the fuel you're burning goes to the wheels instead of to churning lubricant. Real win. Small, but real, and it compounds it. Over 150,000 miles of driving. And yes, the fuel economy standards matter here. Corporate average fuel economy targets pushed the entire industry toward lower viscosity oils, and anyone who tells you otherwise isn't paying attention. But notice what that actually means. It doesn't mean Honda picked an oil that was bad for your engine to hit a number. It means Honda's engineers designed the engine around a thinner oil from the first blank sheet. Tighter main and rod bearing clearances, narrower oil pump specifications, low tension piston ring packs that reduce cylinder wall drag, and hydraulic valve timing circuits calibrated for a specific flow rate at a specific viscosity. The oil isn't a compromise bolted onto the design. The oil is part of the design. That distinction is the whole video, so let me say it twice. The factory grade wasn't chosen despite the engine. The engine was built around the factory grade, which raises the obvious question. If the engine was purpose-built for 0W-20, why does anyone with a high-mileage Honda ever bring up 5W-30? The answer has nothing to do with the oil getting worse. This is where most of the internet loses the thread. The oil didn't change, the engine did. Let's put real numbers on the two grades, so we're not arguing about vibes. Under the SAE J300 classification, an oil carrying a 20-weight hot rating has to land in a defined band of kinematic viscosity measured at 100 degrees Celsius, roughly 6.9 to under 9.3 centistokes. A 30 weight has to land higher, roughly 9.3 to under 12.5 centistokes. In practice, a typical API SP rated 0W-20 measures somewhere near 8.5 centistokes at operating temperature, and a typical 5W-30 sits closer to 10.5. Two figures, same units, same test. Roughly a 25% difference in hot film thickness. Not a different universe, not nothing either. Now hold that number, because we need to talk about what happens to the gaps that film is filling. Think about a door hinge, brand new that pin fits its barrel with almost no play. You can swing the door and there's no clunk, no drop, no rattle. 10 years of somebody's kids swinging on it, and the barrel isn't round anymore. It's worn oval. The pin is still the same pin, the hole grew. Now the door sags a little, and when the wind catches it, you hear that dull knock that wasn't there before. That's bearing clearance growth, and it's the single most important idea in this entire conversation. Your crankshaft doesn't touch its bearings. It floats on a pressurized film of oil in a gap measured in 10,000ths of an inch. A healthy main bearing clearance on a modern Honda 4 might be specified in a window around 1 to 2 thousandths of an inch, and durability engineers track that gap in 10,000ths because that's the resolution where it matters. After 100,000 miles, that gap tends to grow. Maybe 3 10,000ths, maybe 8. Not catastrophic, not nothing. And here's why it matters to you. The thicker the gap, the harder it is. For a given viscosity to maintain a full pressure film across it, the oil has more room to squeeze out sideways under load. So the same oil that had a generous margin in a new engine has thinner margin in a worn one. Nothing failed. The target just moved. The second analogy is the one that explains oil consumption, and I want you to picture it precisely. Imagine a bolt in a hole that's been drilled slightly too wide. The bolt still goes in, it still holds. But there's a ring of empty space around it now, and anything that wants to pass through that hole can. Sealing was never the bolt's job. Sealing was the fit's job, and the fit is gone. That's ring seal. Your piston rings don't seal by being tight against the cylinder wall like a rubber gasket. They seal by maintaining a precise gas pressure-assisted fit against a cylinder bore that's honed to a specific finish. Modern low-tension rings, the ones that give you that friction reduction we praised earlier, depend on that fit more than old high-tension rings did because they're deliberately pressing less hard. When the bore glazes or wears slightly out of round, when the ring faces lose their edge, when the oil control rings drain slots carbon up, the fit opens. And a bolt in an oversized hole doesn't hold anything back. The real-world consequence is that oil starts making the trip up into the combustion chamber instead of staying below it. You don't see a leak. You see a dipstick that reads lower than it used to, and a shop that shrugs. So let's talk about the actual data that decides this question, because it isn't an opinion, it's a rate. Oil consumption rate is measured in quarts per 1,000 miles, and that single number is the piece of information most owners never bother to collect. Manufacturers generally consider a certain amount of consumption normal by design, and published guidance across the industry has historically tolerated figures in the neighborhood of a quart every 1,000 to 1,500 miles before a warranty claim gets taken seriously. That number shocks people. It shouldn't. Combustion engines are designed to burn a little oil because the rings are supposed to leave a film behind. But here's the practical dividing line I'd use. A healthy modern Honda 4-cylinder in good condition often shows essentially no measurable consumption between 5,000-mile changes. The dipstick reads full at the end. If yours is using a quart every 4 or 5,000 miles, that's mild and worth watching. A quart every 2,000 miles is a different conversation entirely. And a quart every 1,000, with a cold start rattle that lasts 2 seconds before it clears, is an engine telling you something specific. Now, a retired powertrain durability engineer I'll call Dave. He asked me not to use his last name, and he spent most of his career on engine validation, not marketing. But to me, in a way, I keep coming back to. He said, the factory viscosity recommendation is a statement about a set of clearances, not a statement about an engine's identity. Change the clearances, and you've changed the premise of the recommendation. He also said, and I think this is the honest part, that no manufacturer wants to publish a second number because the moment you print a second number, you've implied the first one has an expiration date. That's a business problem, not an engineering one, which brings us to the part everybody wants. Does going up a grade help, and what does it cost? Evidence and long-standing technical practice suggest that in a genuinely worn engine, a higher hot viscosity grade may reduce oil consumption and may quiet certain noises. The mechanism is not mysterious. A thicker film has more margin across a larger gap. It's less able to squeeze past a worn oil control ring, and it maintains load-carrying capacity across a bearing clearance that's grown. Going back to the hinge, you can't unoval the barrel, but a fatter pin takes up some of the slack and the door stops knocking. And that analogy contains the warning too. A fatter pin didn't repair the hinge, it masked the play. Let me name the trade-offs plainly, because this is where a lot of well-meaning advice goes quiet. First, cold start flow delay. Going from 0W to 5W means a measurably slower oil delivery to the cylinder head on a cold morning. We're talking about a fraction of a second to a couple of seconds, depending on temperature. But those are exactly the seconds we identified earlier as the most punishing in the engine's life. In a cold climate, that trade-off points the wrong direction. If you're starting at -15 in January, I'd think very hard before giving up the 0W part of the equation. Worth noting, you can often keep the 0W and raise only the hot grade since 0W-30 exists and is API SP rated. That single fact resolves a surprising amount of this debate. Second, fuel economy. A small penalty, and I mean small, the kind of thing that shows up as a percent or two, not a collapse. The pumping loss we saved earlier comes back. You may never see it on the dash. It's still real. Third, and this is the one almost nobody mentions, cam phaser calibration. Your variable valve timing system isn't mechanical in the way a timing chain is mechanical. It's hydraulic. Oil is the working fluid that rotates the cam phaser, and the control software commands a position expecting a specific response rate from a specific viscosity at a specific temperature. Change the fluid's thickness, and you change the response curve. In most cases, the system's closed-loop control absorbs it without complaint. In some engines, particularly ones with tighter phaser tolerances or existing wear in the phaser itself, the technical guidance indicates you may see slower phaser response, and in edge cases, a timing-related fault code. That is a genuine risk, and it deserves to be named. Fourth, turbocharged engines. If you've got a turbo, the bearing feed behavior changes with viscosity, and a turbo bearing cartridge is spinning fast enough that oil delivery timing on startup genuinely matters. I'd be considerably more conservative about grade changes on a turbo Honda than on a naturally aspirated one, and I'd want a mechanic who knows that specific engine in the loop. And the fifth thing isn't a trade-off, it's a correction. Going thicker does not repair wear. It manages a symptom. That distinction is the difference between an informed owner and someone who's been given permission to stop paying attention. Which is why I want to talk about the diagnosis most people skip, because a lot of oil consumption is not worn rings at all. The PCV system, positive crankcase ventilation, is supposed to pull crankcase vapors back into the intake while keeping liquid oil out. When a PCV valve sticks, or when a separator or the oil separator baffle gets restricted, crankcase pressure can rise and the system may start pulling oil mist straight into the intake tract. The consequence looks identical to worn rings on a dipstick. The fix is a part that costs less than 2 oil changes. I've seen owners run 3 grades thicker for years chasing a symptom that a functioning valve would have ended. Valve guides are the second candidate. If a guide and its seal have worn, oil in the head drains down the valve stem and gets burned on the intake stroke. The classic tell is a puff of smoke on startup, or after a long idle at a light and then nothing. That is a specific, findable, fixable condition, and no viscosity change addresses the actual cause. So before anyone changes what's in the jug, the sequence I'd want is straightforward. Establish the consumption rate, check for a stored code, have someone inspect the PCV system and look for oil in the intake. Consider a compression or leak down test if consumption is significant. A worn engine burning oil often needs a PCV, ring, or valve guide diagnosis, not a different grade. All right, let's turn all of that into something you can actually use, because conditions matter more than conclusions here. If your engine is naturally aspirated, you drive mostly highway miles, you're seeing no measurable consumption between changes, and there's no cold start noise, then the factory grade is genuinely fine, and switching is a solution to a problem you don't have. Keep the 0W-20, keep an API SP oil, and put your money into changing it on time instead. If you're burning roughly a quart every 2,000 miles, you hear a brief rattle. On cold startup, and you live somewhere with hot summers and sustained high-load driving, then there's a reasonable case for a higher hot grade with the trade-off named out loud. Slightly slower cold start flow, a small economy penalty, and a possible change in phaser response. In that scenario, I'd look at 0W-30 before 5W-30 because it preserves the cold start advantage while adding the hot film margin. If you're still under powertrain warranty, then run the factory specification, document everything, and talk to the dealer before you deviate. A grade outside the manual specification gives a claims adjuster an argument you don't want to hand them and consumption within their published. Allowance is something they should be measuring, not you, and if your consumption is climbing fast, or you're seeing smoke, or a light is on, then this is a diagnosis, not an oil selection. One physical action this week, and it's the one that matters more than everything else I've said. At exactly 2,000 miles after your next oil change, pull the dipstick. On level ground with a warm engine, and write the number down. Then do it again next interval. Consumption rate is the single piece of data that decides this question, and almost nobody has it. Everything else is guessing with confidence. I should say the obvious thing, plainly. This is general information, not a recommendation for your specific car and your own owner's manual and a mechanic. You actually trust are the final word on what goes in your engine. Now, look, I know this cuts against what a lot of people have been told in both directions. Half of you have been told the manual is gospel and anything else voids your warranty and ruins your engine. The other half have been told thin oil is a fuel economy conspiracy, and 5W-30 fixes everything. I don't think either camp is right, and I fully expect to hear about it. So tell me, drop your mileage, your grade, and your actual consumption number in quarts per 1,000 miles. Not your opinion, your number. If you've got a 200,000 mile Honda running the factory grade with a dry dipstick, I want that comment sitting right next to the one, from somebody whose engine started drinking at 90,000. That's the data set nobody's building, and we can build it here. And if you know someone driving a high mileage Honda who's never once checked their oil between changes, send this to them. Not because their engine's in trouble, because they're 2,000 miles away from knowing whether it is.